bar on the bottom.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Just shout up any time, Lindsay, if there's anything else. So yeah, hopefully we'll talk through a bit about Move More Sheffield, and hopefully you can get a bit of an awareness of what we're doing and what's happening locally, and hopefully see how we're trying to knit things together across the city, with the ultimate aim of trying to make it as easy as possible for everybody in Sheffield to be active and to get the benefits of active living. So Shirley and Lindsay, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I'm going to chat to you for a little while, and then I'm going to hand over to Frank and Shirley, who are going to give some sort of brief personal perspectives on how they've embedded activity into their lives and become more active, and how that's helped them manage their diabetes. And then we're going to have a quick stand up and a quick stretch, and then we're going to hand over to our guest presenter Ali to talk about his career and his experiences. So it's a really great mix tonight. Did I get that about right, Shirley and Lindsay?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
brilliant.
And if you've got any questions, can you put them in the chat box or save them till later, and then we'll get to them? And if we can't answer them tonight, we'll obviously answer them at some point and send you an email.
Do you want me to put the questions that people have already sent in the chat box? Or I could share screen with it.
Share screen with it, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I've got the ones that you've already sent me, Lindsay, so I can do those ones that came in for me. So I'll make sure there's a few minutes at the end of my presentation for any questions that are directed to me, and then the others can do the same. Brilliant. Right, let me share my screen.
So Lindsay, do you want to put everybody on mute?
Okay.
Except for Anna, but she might have to.
Is everybody here who's
We've got 17.
No, what I mean, sorry about this, everyone, is everyone who's showing their name, are you all actually there?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think some people have just got their cameras turned off, Lindsay, I think.
Yeah. Liz, somebody's just entering. How do I mute everyone? Can everyone mute themselves?
Yeah.
Please.
Okay. So Move More Sheffield Move More Sheffield is our whole systems approach to physical activity in the city, and what we mean by that is that we want to see Sheffield become a more active city. We know that there are many benefits to that happening, but we know that there's no silver bullet when it comes to how do you make a city more active. It takes an awful lot of different approaches, and you need to sustain your efforts over time to really get the change that we want to see. So when we talk about making Sheffield a more active city, we try to be realistic in that we're doing good stuff all the time, but to get the big changes that we want to see, we're probably looking at a sort of 20-25 year trajectory to get to where we want to be as a city. So when we talk about whole systems approaches, it's really recognizing that, as I said, there's no silver bullet. There are so many different things that influence our physical activity behaviours, whether it's your experiences of sport at school, whether it's how active your friends and your family are, whether you how healthy and fit and able you are, whether you live near some nice green space, whether you go out to work every day and get activity there. There's so many complex factors that really influence our physical activity levels, and in order to make it as easy as possible for everybody in Sheffield to be more active, we need to address all of those things. So what we do know is that in Sheffield, almost a quarter of the population are considered inactive. So when we talk from a sort of academic point of view about whether people are active, fairly active or inactive, if you are considered inactive, then that means that over a week-long period, you wouldn't do or you would do less than 30 minutes activity over a week-long period. So that's sort of accumulated over a week. So we've got a quarter of the population in Sheffield who are doing less than 30 minutes of exercise or activity a week. So that's an awful lot of people doing very little activity. So what we want to achieve in the long term through the Move More Sheffield approach is we want to create a healthier city, and we think that will make the city happier and a better quality of life for people. And we want to connect people across the city as well, and we want to use physical activity to do all of those things. And our mission in the short term is to enable people to work together so that everybody can benefit from being more active. So we know that there are loads and loads of benefits to being more active. We know in the top left-hand corner on your screen there, we know there are individual benefits. I'm sure everybody on the call is familiar with hearing that physical activity is great for your physical and your mental well-being. It helps us at every single stage in life, whether it's children reaching their developmental milestones, or whether it's adolescents sort of managing emotions and being ready to learn in school, or whether it's getting kids out of trouble and diverting them away from sort of risky situations in their teens, right through midlife, through menopause, and into old age as well. So it has benefits at every single stage of life, and we're probably more familiar with that side of things. The other side, or the second sort of facet around physical activity that people might be less aware of, is the social good that it does, and the fact that it can really bring groups of people together. It can bring communities together. It can reduce crime. It can reduce antisocial behaviour. So it does all this really good social stuff as well. Thinking a bit more broadly again, it also supports the economy because it helps to keep people in work. It helps people to be productive in work. It reduces absenteeism, and it helps support the economy in that way. And there's also the really big picture stuff that if we get more people walking, cycling, scooting, wheeling in wheelchairs, whatever it is, if we get more people travelling actively and fewer people in their cars, then it's really good for planetary health and good for the environment as well. So right from right across the spectrum, physical activity is a very good thing. So Move More Sheffield is our citywide approach. What we try and do is we try and identify all the good stuff that's going on around across the city, and there is absolutely loads. There are loads of brilliant people in communities working with community groups and groups of friends to support people to be more active. There are lots of great physical activity providers and clubs and sports clubs and all of those kind of things. And then there's all the big anchor organisations as well that all sort of contribute to different ways of supporting people to be active. And our role in Move More is to really try and link all of those partners up across the city. And as the diagram at the bottom there shows, rather than having a sort of chaotic everybody doing their own thing and not being coordinated, we want everyone to do their own thing, but all sort of pull in the same direction, so that if we're all working in a coordinated way, hopefully we'll have more impact. So it's a really complex thing when you start to think about how you make a city more active, and we have to sort of divide it up and try and make sense of it so that we can tackle smaller bits of it. So the way that we do that is we think about it in 6 chunks. And the first, and I think probably the most important, is communities, and it's it's supporting people where they live, with their friends and families and carers in the places that they know and love to become more active, and really having a focus on how we do that. The second chunk is around education. So we know that when people are exposed to really good experiences of physical activity early in life, that can help the development of lifelong active behaviours. So we have a really big programme around schools and getting people more active through early years, primary school, secondary school. The third one is about health and social care. So what we want to see ultimately in Sheffield is that every time anybody has any interaction with a healthcare professional or a social care professional, that they get some really positive messaging around physical activity. There's also opportunities to really build physical activity into care pathways as well. So that when you have a routine appointment, you might be sort of linked up to a exercise professional to help work out how the best way for you to become more active. The fourth chunk is around active travel, and that's what I mentioned before, just about trying to get people to ditch the car a bit more and jump on their bike or their scooter or walk or whatever it is. But we have such a strong culture of car use in this country compared to some of our European neighbours, and it would be lovely to think that we can move towards that more active travel model. The fifth chunk is sport. So we know that Sheffield has a really rich heritage when it comes to sports. We've got lots of brilliant facilities across the city. We've got lots of big names. I think we've all enjoyed the Olympics and have felt quite inspired by that. So we really want to use sport for its widest possible social good that it can do. So it's not just about elite sport, it's about inspiring young kids. It's about giving kids who live in disadvantaged areas opportunities to try things and to build confidence and help their personal and social development as well. And then the final chunk is environments, and this is basically anywhere in the city where people are active or could be active. So this is our this is the moor, this is our parks, this is it's our streets, it's outside our schools, it's where we live. So it's any sort of physical environment that can either help or hinder us in our bid to get more active. So that's how we sort of divide it up. And within each of those sections, we've got groups of people who work on each of those areas across the city. In addition to those programmes of work, we also, every year we have Move More Month, which is the month of June. I don't know whether any of you have been involved in that before. I'm sure some of you have. Historically, we've done sort of mass big splash events in June. So we've done the Workplace Challenge, where we've had thousands of people competing via an app tracking their activity levels. We got a Guinness World Record for the highest number of people simultaneously hopscotching in one go a couple of years ago. So a real sort of novelty media splash, but it just helps to start conversations about physical activity. And then this June just gone, we ran a Beat the Street game. Again, I don't know if anybody's been involved. If you've got grandchildren or young children, you might have seen them with these little fobs that you can see on the picture there. And what we did with Beat the Street is 450 of these little units went on lampposts around the city. Every single school child got a key fob like that one, and they got points for their school team by walking, scooting, cycling around the city and beeping their key fob. And so that ran for 6 weeks. So it started in June. And we had 60,000 people playing Beat the Street, which is about 10% of the population of Sheffield. So we collected a whole load of data around that before the game, after the game. We'll collect the data again at 6 months and then 12 months afterwards. So we know that doing these big events isn't going to solve the problem, but it's a really interesting way to start the conversation, to give people an opportunity and just a little sort of boost to get out, a reason to start being active. And then hopefully all the background work that we do around the sides of it helps to keep people active as well. So physical activity and diabetes, which is why we're here tonight. So I'm pretty sure that everybody on the call knows that physical activity is incredibly good for your physical and mental health, whether you have diabetes or you don't have diabetes. Just to run through a few of the benefits, which some of you will be really familiar with. We know about the impact on insulin regulation and how critical physical activity can be in helping that. We know there's compelling evidence that physical activity can help to keep your blood pressure healthy. And we know that people with diabetes are often at higher risk of having complications with blood pressure. So that's really important. Absolutely exactly the same for cholesterol, and also for weight management as well. So we know that diabetes predisposes people to gaining weight, and that physical activity in combination with diet is a really important way to help maintain a healthy weight through life. Physical activity boosts our energy, doesn't it? And it helps you sleep. And both of those things will really help to lift your mood and keep spirits up as well. So very important there. We know that people with diabetes are more likely to have joint problems and painful problems. And certainly in my previous clinical career as a physio, I spent a lot of time treating people, whether it was frozen shoulder or low back pain or whatever it was, sort of diabetes related joint pain. And we know that physical activity is a really important way of maintaining healthy bones and joints. We've talked a bit about mind and lifting your spirits and boosting your mood. It's an incredibly important way to do that. There's also loads of evidence that just getting out in green spaces and getting a bit of fresh air and nature every day and daylight, again, can help that as well. And we know that in some cases it can help certain types of diabetes go into remission, and we're going to hear some really inspiring stories later on. So that's just summarised really in this diagram, so I won't go through that again. But just in terms of physical activity guidance, I think it's really normal for people to be apprehensive if they've been inactive for a while. It's very natural for people to feel worried about any negative consequences to becoming more active. I think it's really important to remember that the benefits far outweigh the risks, and as long as you're taking a sort of a gradual approach to increasing your activity levels, you're very unlikely to run into problems. Key things to be aware of, and anybody with diabetes will always be aware of their blood sugar management. That goes without saying, I think, and that's obviously always a consideration for people. Musculoskeletal conditions, we know that if people have had diabetes for a number of years, their tendons and ligaments can be affected, so you might be more likely to experience some musculoskeletal conditions. That's another reason to just start steady and build up gradually. People that have gained a lot of weight can find it very hard to regulate your temperature. So if you know that you are a bit overweight and you're exercising, then just thinking about making sure there's some fresh air around you and that you're dressed properly for it can really help to avoid getting too hot and bothered. And then it's just worth a couple of additional considerations, particularly if you're older or a little bit less mobile. Then if your eyesight is affected through diabetes, then just being really mindful of that and making sure you've got a safe environment. And also if your peripheral sensation is affected as well, particularly feet, then it can cause people to stumble and be a little bit less stable when they're moving around. So again, just a bit of extra caution about making sure the environment's safe and appropriate. But really the bottom line is, if you start small and you build up gradually, you're very unlikely to run into any problems. And if you have any questions at all, I'd always recommend that you seek out some expert advice, and I believe there's an opportunity to do that through one of the next meetings that the Sheffield branch is having, so that'll be a really good opportunity if anybody does have questions. So we know that physical activity is really good for us, but how much do we need to do? So the guidance for physical activities for people with diabetes is very similar to people who don't have diabetes. Basically, we should be aiming for 150 minutes over a week. So that is hopefully quite achievable when it's broken down, and it doesn't matter how little you do in one go. It can be 5 minutes 3 times a day, and you can sort of build it up and accrue it that way. They do recommend that the activity that you build into your life is at least moderate intensity to get the maximum health benefit. And when we talk about moderate intensity physical activity, it would be like a brisk walk. So you'd feel a little bit hot, you'd feel a bit out of breath, but you'd be able to chat, so it's not, that's what we mean by moderate intensity. I think maybe some people will go for a very slow walk and feel that they're getting their physical activity, but might just be missing out on a little bit of the potential health benefits. Whereas if they could just pick up their pace and get a little bit out of puff, then you get so much more bang for your buck. The second part of this is often overlooked, I think, and it's particularly important in terms of helping us to age well and just protecting our bones and our joints and our movement and our function as we get older. And the guidance is that we should be doing 2 sessions a week to keep our major muscle groups strong. So that doesn't mean that you have to go to the gym and pump a load of iron, but what it does mean is you need to do some specific exercises to keep your joints, your muscles strong. And the particular muscles, it's your big muscle groups, the ones that help you do functional things like getting upstairs, getting in and out of the bath, up and down off the settee, those kind of functional exercises. So things like squats are really great, lunges are really, really good, up onto your toes and back down. Those kind of things are really, really basic, but really, really good exercises for keeping us strong and nimble as we get older. And then the final bit is really, it's dead simple. It's just about trying to limit sedentary behaviour. So trying to limit prolonged sitting. Prolonged sitting is really, really bad for us. We're designed to move around. And I've been working at home for the last 18 months, and I've been doing so much sitting at my desk, and it's just horrible. So I can really appreciate the guidance to just move around a little bit more and try and break up patterns of sitting. And what we do know is that breaking up patterns of sitting with any kind of activity is a really good thing. So it doesn't matter if it doesn't have to be exercise, but just standing up, doing a few sort of marching on the spot for a few minutes, just walking around the house, walking down to get a cup of tea, doing a lap of the garden, whatever it is, any sort of movement to break up those sedentary patterns is really beneficial. So just to sum up on the sort of basic physical activity guidance, start small, build up slowly. You can do anything you want with the physical activity. You can do any type of physical activity that suits you within reason, but it's just really important to have a sort of graded run into it so that you don't run into problems. So any activity is good for us. Some is good, more is better. So I think that's a really important message, that there's no sort of minimum dose. Any little bit that you can sneak into your day helps. And I think particularly if you have diabetes, you'll be very tuned into your own body, and you'll always be sort of self-monitoring how you're feeling and how you're going through the day. So I think that's probably quite a natural and an easy thing to do when you live with diabetes, is just listening to your body. Okay. So I was going to just talk you through a couple of sort of little snippets really of stuff that we sort of top tips and information that we hear time and time again of things that have helped people to get active and stay active. I just wanted to show you, this is a screenshot of one of the pages on the Move More website, and it's got ways to get active in Sheffield. So if you are looking for new classes or opportunities or social things to do, then have a look at this page on the website. It's got a load of providers and loads of the activities that happen regularly, and you can click through and go onto individual websites and have a look and find more information there. We're really lucky in Sheffield. There's loads and loads of stuff going on, but I know that sometimes it can be quite hard to actually access the right information. So the first thing, if people are looking to get more active, the first thing that I would say is make it as easy as possible for yourself. So choose something that you can build into your daily routine, something that you don't need a load of new kit for, something that's not, you don't have to drive to the other side of town to do, just something that it will be easy for you to start and to keep on doing. I'd really encourage you to reach out and try and find out what's in your local area. I think building those links with other people who also want to be active is a huge part of the fun of being active. And really thinking about actually what will I still want to do? What will I still logistically, what will I still be able to do in sort of 2 months, 6 months, 12 months time? The second thing, and this might be the most important thing, but just about making sure it's fun. Activity shouldn't feel like punishment. It shouldn't feel like, oh gosh, I'm tired, it's the end of the day and now I've got to go and do A, B or C. It should feel like fun. So I think I'd always encourage people to think about what they enjoy, what they have enjoyed in the past. We've got loads of examples of people who loved football or netball at school, and then 30, 40 years later they're going back to clubs and doing walking football or walking netball, or finding some sort of alternative, but just something that sparks that passion and that interest again. So there's loads of accessible opportunities across the city, so just spend a few minutes thinking about what you really love doing and what lights you up a bit. And it doesn't need to be sport, it doesn't need to be a formal sport, it doesn't need to be driving to the gym and then going to the gym. It can be whatever you enjoy. For a lot of people, dancing is such fun and really lifts people's moods. There's bound to be some of the dog owners on the call tonight, but if you've got a dog, you can't get away with not exercising. They're great personal trainers and they're just such good fun. Gardening and allotments and that kind of thing is a great way to stay active and to get your muscle strength and your aerobic activity in. So choose something that's really going to work for you. The final one is about making it social, and again, this is a personal thing, so it might not be helpful for everybody, but the research and our experience with working with people across Sheffield tells us that it's the friendships that you make and the social contacts that will keep you going back again and again. And I know if I've arranged to meet somebody to go on a bike ride or something, I would never drop out then. But whereas if I'm going by myself, I might just sort of leave it a bit late and then think, I don't know if I can be bothered now. So I think it keeps us accountable and it makes it fun. And the social contact itself is so incredibly important for our health. And I think it's something we, as a society, don't always recognise and don't always value. But people that experience social isolation, so people who feel lonely, that can be as bad for your health as smoking 10 to 15 cigarettes a day, the negative impact. So really surrounding yourself with people that you enjoy being with and making most of that social contact and helping to be those contacts for other people who are lonely as well is an incredibly powerful thing that we could do for our own health and for other people as well. So the last bit is just to expect setbacks. I don't think anybody has ever decided to get active and then had a very sort of straight line of success. I think we all fall off the wagon, and I think there's many weeks when we don't do as much as we want to do, and I think it's just that ability to forget about it, move on, start again, don't beat yourself up, just get back on the wagon and have another go. There are so many things that can set us back, whether it's a little injury or a cough or a cold, or the weather in Sheffield is notorious, isn't it, for just upsetting the best laid plans. So there's so many things that can throw us off our stride, and it's just important to be resilient and just think, oh well, sorry, I'll try again tomorrow, and not beat yourself up about it too much. So this is my final slide, and there's one more slide that's just got a few links, and I'll make sure I circulate these via Shirley and Lindsay so they can be sent around. But I just wanted to flag the We Are Undefeatable website that some of you might be aware of. There's loads of great information for people with diabetes and with a whole range of other health conditions as well. They've got some lovely videos of people talking about what activity means to them and what exercise means to them and how they use it to help with their symptoms and what they've got out of it. And there's a whole load of activity planners and trackers and things on there as well. So I've just highlighted these. Chris, who's got type 1 diabetes and plays football, and Meg, who has type 2 diabetes and loves dancing around in the kitchen, which is just lovely. So when you have a spare moment, hop onto the internet and have a look at the We Are Undefeatable website if you haven't already. There's lots of really inspiring content on there. So that is the other links that you can have a look at your leisure. So that's me done. So I will stop sharing and see if anybody has any questions. I'm very quiet. Just if you do have a question, just shout up.
There's a few to you in the chat box, Anna.
Okay, let me have a look.
But also, I'll look for those, the ones from...
Yeah, I've got the ones that you sent over, so I can do those in a tick.
Oh, great.
So I can ask. So is this from Liz? So you fractured your ankle, 4 breaks. That sounds awful. You've been told to stay indoors until next X-ray on the 5th of October. As a keen rambler, this feels like a death sentence. It's really, I'm not surprised it's affecting your well-being. That sounds really, really tough. And I think we've all probably got just a little bit more insight, having been through periods of lockdown where we can't exercise and can't get out. It must be really isolating and difficult. I don't know whether you've been able to find anything that you can do, Liz, but some of the things that you might be able to get back to sooner than some other things, getting in the pool when you're able to might be an option. I don't know whether that's
I can't even walk. I can't walk until October, so getting to a leisure centre's nigh on impossible, stairs and steps. I can't get out of the house, the steps. So I can't even get in the garden, and I'm just going insane. I just wonder if you've got any recommendations about exercises indoors for wheelchair users.
Yeah, I mean, I do a seated chair exercise. Well, it's a dance exercise with the Sheffield United, and so you don't usually use your legs very often. You can stand if you want, but you can sit. And I find that, I mean, I can stand, but I quite like the sitting bit. And I find that really good because it's music that you like. So it's not just pop music, they do Singing in the Rain or whatever. And basically it's about moving your upper body, not so much your lower body. So perhaps you might consider something on that vein. So
Great.
yeah,
Sheffield United, you say?
Yeah.
On YouTube or something, is it?
No, it's via Zoom. They do a Tuesday morning, they start on a Wednesday morning and a Thursday afternoon.
Brilliant.
There's also one, Liz, that's
an hour.
Run by Community Wellness in Sheffield as well, that they do chair-based activity, and so they're via Zoom, but they're live, so at least you get a bit of the sort of social chatter and stuff as well. It's just little things that can help to break the day up a bit. When we move on to the next presenter, I'll find a couple of links and send them to you, Liz.
Oh, thank you. I'm not isolated. I've got visitors every day, but
and also diabetes do a 10-week course of different activities. Some are seated, some are standing, and they range from seated yoga, boxing.
Yeah, we've got a new program starting that I can send some details for as well.
So that would be quite fun for you, Liz, because I've done it, and I'm actually teaching Tai Chi on the next phase. So yes.
Oh wow. Thank you.
Brilliant. Well, we'll send you some links, Liz, and good luck with it.
Thank you.
So I can see one here. How long is prolonged sitting? And that's a really good question. So in this country, we don't have any sort of minimum for how long it's okay to sit for, but I know in other countries they do, and it's considered to be around 20 minutes. So anything more than 20 minutes sitting, you need to sort of get up and have a little stretch and move around. I think there are some little hacks, if you're watching telly, then every ad break try and stand up, or having just a little beep on your phone to remind you if you're sitting for long periods of time. I know I have to do that when I'm at my desk, otherwise the day just disappears, and before I know it I've got a numb bum and I've been sitting down for 2 hours. So So are there passes that people can use to get active? So it's worth mentioning that the SPARS programme, so the Sheffield Physical Activity Referral Scheme. So you can refer yourself in, and again, I'll pop this link into the chat. You can refer yourself, or you can be referred in by any healthcare professional, and through the SPARS network of providers across the city. I don't think it's free, but I think it's very low cost to have support for a 12-week programme of activity. And that all used to be face-to-face at the leisure centres, but now it's an awful lot of it's on Zoom from a few of the providers as well. So yeah, so that might be of interest. So I can pop that link in the chat as well. So we've got a question here about muscle strength and what you can do if you feel that you're not very strong, and where you can start. And if you have diabetes and you feel that you're not very strong and you'd like to get stronger, it probably is a good thing to get a bit of support with. You know, I've mentioned some of the basic exercises that you can do at home, just sort of hands on the work surface, doing 10 squats and that kind of thing. But if you want to move beyond that, then I really would recommend just linking up with an exercise instructor. And again, you could do that virtually through the SPARS program, or you could do it at a leisure centre or a gym across the city. But I think if you're wanting to move on to that next level, it's probably worth getting a bit of sort of individual advice and support with it. Oh, lovely. You've got links already going in there. Okay, brilliant. So I had a couple of questions that came in beforehand. One, I think we've sort of picked up on exercise for people who are wheelchair users. And in fact, we've done the other one as well, because that was anywhere that people who are physically not very strong can get very good advice. So if there's any final questions for me, then do just shout up now. Otherwise, we'll move on to Frank next. So Frank, if you want to get yourself ready, we'll move over to you in a tick. Brilliant. So no final questions. I'll keep an eye on the chat and answer any others that come in. Brilliant. Thank you very much for listening to me. I'm delighted to hand over to Frank Frost, who I think most of you know on the call. And Frank's going to give a bit of an overview of his personal experience of becoming more active.
Thank you, Anna.
Hello, I'm Frank. I'm 72 and I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes about 20 years ago. I was a long-distance truck driver for 30 years, working 12-hour days, away from home 6 days a week. My diet was very poor. I lived on sandwiches and takeaways and drank too much alcohol at weekends, with no exercise at all. I tried lots of low-calorie diets, which after initial success always ended in failure. At my heaviest, I weighed 19 stone, which I believe is 120 kilograms. I followed the usual path for diabetics of first diet, then tablets, and then insulin. I was on 40 units twice a day for 10 years. I was told diabetes wasn't reversible and I would be on medication for life and would never come off insulin. When I was 68 and retired, I lost my heavy goods license through diabetes. I read a report by a Professor Taylor from Newcastle University, who said type 2 diabetes could be reversed by following a low-carb, no-sugar, healthy fat diet. The science behind it made sense to me, especially the part that said not all people with type 2 were obese. And the problem was visceral fat, the fat around your internal organs. I started an 8-week low-carb, healthy fat diet on approximately 800 calories a day. And after about 3 days of feeling dizzy and no energy, I felt better than for a long time and lost all my cravings for carbs and sugar. In those 8 weeks, I lost nearly 3 stone. My HbA1c came down and I came off insulin. After reading further books on the subject, I devised my own eating plan, which involves mainly eggs, avocados, oily fish, nuts, olives, and green leaf veg, and avoided bread, pasta, rice, and potatoes. I now weigh 13 stone, which is 82 kilograms, and I've lost 6 stones. I can't overestimate the help and advice I got from my GP Dr. Holly Hart from Sloan Medical Centre, who inspired me to take up cycling. I hadn't been on a bike for 50 odd years. I now run my own cycling group called the Chain Gang with 20 members. And I've not only benefited physically, but also mentally, riding with friends in the Peak District. My partner and I have just bought a tandem because she's registered blind, and it's opened up a new world for us. There's a lot of information out there, but the health professionals can only do so much. It's up to us as individuals to help ourselves. And the only regret I have is I waited many years to take my diabetes seriously before doing something about it. So if you are newly diagnosed or pre-diabetic, now is the time to act. Believe me, it gets much harder the longer you leave it. But it's never too late to start because I'm the proof. There's a lot of help out there, and don't forget, there is no stigma to having diabetes. It's not your fault, you aren't to blame. And although I went on an extreme diet, it doesn't suit everyone. Devise your own plan and just take small steps if that's best for you. I hope my story helps people. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Frank. Very good. I think we can all sort of relate to that in one way or another.
Frank, can I ask you, when did you start getting into exercise during that? Were you moving more when you started your dieting?
Well, when I were on this extreme diet, I was still on tablets and insulin, and I found it very difficult exercising because I were almost having hypos. So I didn't exercise until my doctor took me off insulin, and then I could work out how much exercise I could do and how much I would eat, how many carbs I would eat. So it worked for me, you know, but like everybody knows, it's a balance. And initially I couldn't exercise. I felt too ill. But after I lost some weight and came off some medication, I felt fantastic and wanted exercise. And for a long time since I've been on a bike, I joined a group called Pedal Ready, who taught adults how to get back into cycling, and I never looked back from there, really.
I think that's really great. It's well, that thing about insulin just makes so much sense to me. Oh, yeah, me understanding about insulin in general, because I've got type 1. But what had started you off? What made you think, actually, I want to do this now, I'm sick of it?
I think, yeah, once I retired, I had time to do it. I mean, I was virtually living in a truck for a long time, and I probably used that as an excuse, not being able to eat the right food. But and then my life changed. I got divorced and I met someone else who had 6 grandkids, and I realised I wanted to live long enough to see them grow up. So that's probably why I also did something. It's just a personal thing. You know, I'm sure we've all got reasons to live longer.
It's a good question here, Frank, as well. How do you pick yourself up when diabetes throws you challenges?
Well, I mean, sometimes it's one step forward and 2 back. You know, you've got to have that determination to do it, to sort your life out. And it's not easy. It sounds easy what I've done, but it wasn't. And like I said, the earlier you start, I think it's easier. And yeah, that's all I can say, really. You've got to have a certain type of determination to do it. But just think about what the repercussions are if you don't do it. You know, you can get very ill.
Well, thank you, Frank. So I think it's my turn to say what I did. And rather like you, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And for about 15 months, I just buried my head in the sand and didn't really think about it. And then my husband then bought me a Fitbit, and my daughter got one. So we used to sort of like compete with steps. And then my niece joined in and my other daughter joined in. I got quite competitive. And it got to the fact that if my niece logged on and she got more steps than me and I was in my pajamas, I would put my clothes on and I'd go out and do a few more steps because I wanted to be on that top run. And then I also read an article about Move More, and that also helped me because I joined the Move More Steel City Challenge, and that really got that competitive where I was going out, making sure that I did my steps every day or even twice a day. So it was sort of a competitive nature. I haven't got that now, I must admit. But yeah, I started walking further because the weight was dropping off, and I felt, a lot better for it. And where I live, it's hills. And at one time I wouldn't be able to get up it without stopping 3 times. But now I can get up, and when I get to the top, I think I'm just going to carry on, don't stop, keep going. So it helped me by, doing more exercise. Cutting out, food-wise, I just cut chocolate bread out, and I just said that I was doing it for Lent. But because I'd got a reason to do it, not that I am religious, I wasn't doing it for Lent, I was doing it for me. It carried on until October, November, December, and then, sort of carried on. And I do have glitches, and it is a struggle. It's not easy doing it, because some days you just think, oh, I just can't get up and I don't want to walk today. But I've got a dog, so I have to. And, she's the one that sort of set me off going. I don't compete with my niece and my daughters now. Just my niece runs and I don't run, so I can't keep up with her. But I still do my steps, and like you, it's about I use quite a bit of apps. So I do the active active 10s. So that's like walking 10 brisk minutes, and you can choose how many 10s you do in a day. So you can do just 1 10. Or 2 or 3 is the maximum that they log. But if you walk and you do more than 3, you get like 4 little cups if you've done 40 minutes. You can also do challenges where you walk. I did one where it was through New York, so it was the New York Marathon, and you walked and you had to sort of like pick things up. So you could have, it was a bit like a treasure trail as well. But there's a whole community out there that you can walk with, that you don't have to be on your own. So I've sort of, and I do gentle exercise as well. I do Tai Chi and Qigong, and having somebody around you that does the same sort of thing and encourage you. And when you do have down days, they're there to lift you up, and that's amazing that you have that support. So family and friends, I don't think you can do without them. But you have to have the right. I think you've got to have the things in place. It's a bit like having all the planets in alignment. It's A, you want to do it, B, you're going to do it, and you've got that sort of impetus to do it. Because if you don't, then they're interacting and they want to go in one way, one's going another. So you've got to sort of be there at that time where it's, I am going to do it, and I'm going to do it now, and just go for it. So
brilliant. Oh, and there's a good question here, Shirley, about how you managed through lockdown and how that affected your activity levels.
Well, it did affect my activity levels, and I'm paying for it now. Just like everybody else, I said it's a struggle, and you can't always keep the weight off. I mean, I lost 2.5 stone, and I've only put about £10 on, but that £10 has meant that my sugar levels have raised slightly. So people say, yes, you get back in remission, or you're back in pre-diabetic mode. You're fine, you know, you've done it. But it's there with you all the time. It doesn't go away. It's always hiding, just waiting for you to have a lapse moment, and then it rears its head. So you do have to watch it. And as Frank says, it doesn't get any easier once you put that weight on to get that weight off. You know, it becomes a struggle. But I haven't put all the weight on and more, so I just feel as though it's there, and I need to now get hold of it before it gets any worse. But as for activity, I still walk the dog through the pandemic. I became an NHS responder, so I did people shopping for them. I often used to chat to people who were diabetic, who couldn't have the right food through the pandemic, and I would go to the local food bank and pick them food up. And encourage them, either to join, Diabetes UK, or, so that they weren't on their own, because that's what they are. They feel very isolated, and I can relate to that. I'm on my own now, and some days I don't think I always think it's a Sunday because it's just sort of like the same thing every day. So yeah, I can honestly feel how those that have been self-isolating for nearly 18 months suddenly just don't want to go out, and that's one of the things that they're suffering from, is that fear of going out, and the fear of going out into busy places that they've not done for a long time. So mental health is going to be a real issue for quite a number of people.
Brilliant. Thank you, Shirley. Does anybody have any final questions for Shirley? There's lots of comments coming in saying amazing, Shirley, and brilliant. Yeah, inspiring to hear. Any last questions for Shirley? Okay, it's 8:10, and so I'm conscious of time, and I know we're all very keen to hear from Ali. I was going to suggest that in the spirit of moving more, that we should all just have a very quick stretch for a couple of minutes. You can do it sitting down, you can do it standing up, you can do heads, shoulders, knees and toes, whatever you want to do, but just have a little move around for a minute or so, and then we'll come back and introduce Ali.
If anybody wants to have a toilet break or a drink, then please do. Hi, Mike.
Hello, Shirley.
Haven't seen you for a while. How are you doing?
I know. Well, I've not been too bad. As you probably know, I had another stroke in the back end of April. Yeah.
All right. I didn't know.
Yeah.
No.
And sort of knocked me for six for a little bit. It's taken a bit to get back on my feet. Well, I'm not on my feet, but to get back to where I was. But yeah, I'm recovering slowly. Let's put it that way. So
looking well, anyway.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, it's nice to join a group for a long time. I haven't been on a diabetes group now for 2 years on, because we're not going to be back until next year now.
Oh, right.
We're going to do a full relaunch in the new year. We've been away.
You have to join us if you like, if you want.
Oh yeah, I know. That's trouble is Thursday's not a good night for me. I have, but I sort of broke away early tonight so I could come and join you.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Well, it's there for everybody. We're all in, the big diabetes family that we're all in.
Oh, that's right. I mean, we're all suffering from the same things, don't we? So, so you've been doing well since our last meeting, have you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I've.
You keeping up the Tai Chi?
Yes, I started doing it with the exercise program from diabetes. So I do.
Yeah, I thought that was the case. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I might just sign up and do some boxercise with them, you know.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah,
Admit.
I thought the wash guys were fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, especially that guy with the big arms.
Yeah.
You know,
It was
wouldn't be like
amazing.
that. Well, I would anyway. But no, I'm starting back beginning of September. I sort of stayed out of the exercise field for a bit, but I should be back in the beginning of September and cracking on. Take away a few of those pounds that I put on.
Are you going to do it with the lady that you found on the internet?
Yeah.
What was her name?
Non-stop Kim.
Non-stop Kim, yeah.
She used to be a you know, one of them parcel deliverers who cycle around New York.
Oh right, yes.
That's what she did first, and then she got into this fitness thing, and then she got doing all the cycling, but then she was always injured. You know, I always knew there's a reason why I didn't do it. And yeah, I still can't keep up with her. Still can't.
You'll get there, Steve. You'll get there, Mike. Don't worry about it.
One day, yes. I'll have to make it so she doesn't beat me.
Yeah.
You know, but that's what you got to do in it. Find something that works for you.
Yes. Yes.
That you think that you can do and build up to. You know.
Yeah, there's a lot of exercise programs that are on the internet now. Because you've got Heart Matters. You know, they've got one, and diabetes has got one. Plus they do Tai Chi as well. So I'm a bit knocked about that, but there we go. But there's all sorts of exercises. You've got your, you know, the arthritis one with Leon and his mum.
I've not seen that one. I mean, the thing is,
it's quite good apparently.
Because I'm sat in a chair, you know, you've got to remember that, you know, a bit like going around the gyms, you know, they can't cope with you because they don't know what to do with you, because you can't get on a running machine, and you can't do this and you can't do that.
Well, with Leon, his mum sits on a chair. He does it standing, but his mum does it sitting.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. But I think that's the key, isn't it? Find something that you enjoy doing, and then, you know, don't try and match it with these guys, because you're never going to do it. No. And go at your own pace. You know, I get halfway through one of her 30-second sessions. That's me. I'm on the floor virtually. She's very, very quick.
You just might have to find somebody a bit slower, Mike.
No, there's no challenge, is there? You got to have a challenge.
Oh, definitely.
You know, you got to have something that the day that you beat them is the day that, you know, you think, that's it, I've done it.
Yeah.
And then not stop.
I'm going to keep on top.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Got to be top of the leaderboard. That was me.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, my niece said to me one Christmas, all I want for Christmas is to beat me Auntie Shirley on the leaderboard. But she did it, but she took up running, so, you know, I thought,
I think the working with Priya, I think my story from the sessions is going into the next balance, I think.
Oh, right.
So you might see me popping up there.
Well, Frank's quite a celebrity now, Frank.
Yeah, so I see.
Yeah. He's got a few articles going. I'm asking for his autograph when we get face to face.
Yeah, and he can do you a bit of lorry driving at the same time. He can teach you, you know. Yeah. I mean, I spent most of my life on the road, as you know, and I know exactly what it's like, not staying over, but, you know, I'll be away for a week, and it's not as glamorous as people think it is.
Yeah.
You know, I think you're staying in all these posh hotels, and you probably do, but then you eat rubbish food. You know, it's nice to come home and have a proper meal.
Yeah. And then Anna.
I was just going to say, is it a good time to introduce Ali and to get cracking?
Yes.
Is that great?
Yeah, that's fine.
That, I think everybody's back from the little stretching break, or will be soon, I'm sure. And Shirley and Lindsay, can just to let you know, I'm going to listen to the first 10 minutes, and then I need to go and put my kids to bed. So
no, that's fine.
I'll be ducking out if that's all right. So thank you very much for having me.
No, it's been wonderful for you having yours as well. Yes. So
great stuff.
Something to my heart, that Movemore. I was really upset when he's still doing it.
Oh, there'll be other opportunities, I promise.
We were discussing that last night, saying that we're going to get our own little Move More group.
Brilliant. Yeah,
Yes,
what a great idea.
yeah.
Fabulous.
Okay.
I look forward to hearing about your success.
Right.
So let's move on to hear our main guest this evening. So I'd like to introduce Ali, who is a professional boxer and has really excelled in his career and also has type 1 diabetes. It's brilliant to have you here tonight, Ali. Thank you very much. And we're all really looking forward to hearing from you. So I'll hand over to you.
Hey, thank you very much, Anna, Dr. Anna. Thank you for the introduction, and it was a fantastic slide you did, and it was very informative, to myself first and foremost regarding injuries. Secondly, I want to say what an inspiration Frank is. A fantastic story he told, and how he's overcome adversity, from working on the trucks and gaining so much weight and then losing so much weight. Well done, Frank, and keep up the good work. And thirdly, I want to thank Shirley and Lindsay for inviting me, to this wonderful talk. And it would have been better in person, but obviously we've got to live with how our lives have been set now due to this pandemic. Good evening, guys. And like Dr. Anna gave the introduction, I'm the first UK's diabetic professional boxer. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age of 4. We're going back to 1999, around then. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. My mum saw me. Well, I'll tell you from how I was diagnosed. I was playing I've been very hyperactive as a young child, always taking part in football, cricket, whatever sport. I've played golf, tennis, I played all sports. So I'm playing football in the back garden, and my mum saw me acting funny, but she didn't know that I had on that day I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I was suffering from a hypoglycemia, and my mum just couldn't get me under control, so she rang the paramedics, the ambulance, and they came to the house and obviously told my mum that I've been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So my mother and father went into kind of depression at the time because it was new to our family, diabetes. And obviously me being a young lad, I'm the middle child, and at the time I was the youngest, and my mother and father, they had to educate themselves about type 1 diabetes. They were educated by the NHS staff, who really educated my mother and father, gave them a lot of advice. But going back then, nearly 20 years ago, is it 20 years ago? About 18 years ago, 15 years ago, going back then, I was using the cartridges of insulin. I remember old school, the cartridges pretty big, and the needles were 12 milliliters. Like now I'm using 4 millimeters, but back then it was 12 millimeters. And my mother would inject herself first to see if it's painful on her body, and then if it wasn't painful, she'd inject me. And checking, it was back then you had to, like now I'm an ambassador for Freestyle Libre, and back then you'd have to prick your finger, and I think some people still are pricking their fingers to check the sugar levels. And we were checking my on the blood strips my sugar levels, and that's how I was brought up. So at school, I felt left out because during break times, the kids who were non-diabetic, they were given a glass of milk, whereas I was given a Diet Coke can, the mini can, and 2 Mars bars. And I felt left out and alienated because children are drinking milk. Why am I being given Diet Coke and Mars bars? But 20 years on, if that happens now, I'd be really happy to be having 2 Mars bars and a Diet Coke can. I'd leave the milk. And back then I felt left out, and that's how I grew up. I didn't feel part of, my class, because children, for example, during physical education lessons, they'd be just getting changed and going into the lessons, whereas I'd be checking my sugar levels and then taking part, and kids would be looking at me like, is this person for real? What's he doing? What on earth is he doing? And they wasn't aware of type 1 diabetes being that young, 5, 6 years old. And then how I got into boxing was I was taking part in football. My nurse, Jo, at the time, she told my mother and father that putting me into exercise would be really beneficial for me, because I'd be controlling my sugar levels in a better manner, taking part in physical activity, and my sugar levels will be well controlled. So my mother and father put me into football. Then I told my mother and father, look, I'm bored of football. I want to move on to a different sport. I got put into karate. And then at the time, Ricky Hatton was boxing at the Manchester Arena. And my father would take us up to watch Manchester United. I'm a big Manchester United fan. We had a season ticket at Old Trafford, and we'd go to watch on the weekends of football. And I felt as though I wanted to become a sportsman. I thought I was good enough in football to become a footballer, and I wanted people to get behind me, support me in a sport. That's what my dream was as a youngster. And we'd gone to watch Ricky Hatton now in the boxing, and there was roughly 19 to 20,000 people in the arena, all cheering Ricky Hatton on. And it uplifted me. And I was like saying to my father, I want the same. I think I'm good enough to become a boxer. And my father was like, no, you're type 1 diabetic as it is. Boxing will be no good for your brain. It'll get shook up. You don't want to do boxing. You've got to be healthy and go down the educational route. I'd like you to become a doctor or a teacher, a professional in another field. And I was like, no, I want to do boxing. So my father put me into karate and wouldn't put me into boxing. But I spoke to my mum and I said to her, look, I think I can be a good boxer. Can you take me to the gym? So she sneaked me up to the gym because I was good at school, well behaved, and she took me up to the local boxing gym. So I went there for a few sessions, and they asked for my father to come in because they said I'm good enough to become a boxer. And from there, I took my dad into the gym, and he was very angry that why have I been boxing without his permission? And they told my coach told my father, look, you Ali's good enough to become a boxer. And then I was denied of my boxing license because of being type 1 diabetic. So I felt as though this was discrimination because I was fit. I'd never suffered a hypo or high blood sugar levels. In the boxing gym, I was well controlled, healthy, and there was no reason for me not to have a boxing license. For example, I was very fit, very healthy, and there's no reason why I shouldn't be given a boxing license. So I was roughly 13, 14 years old, and a lot of my time as a youngster from becoming an amateur boxer was taken away from me. So at the age of 17, I joined the boxing gym where Amir Khan had gone to the Olympics from, Bury Amateur Boxing Club. And the coach saw me training and he said, look, he's good enough to become a boxer. And we told him the reason, look, I was denied of getting an amateur boxing license for being type 1 diabetic. And he told us that, look, the rules and regulations have changed now. And I became an amateur boxer. And at this time, I was at university. I had a deal with my father that if I had gone down the educational route, completing my education up to university, graduating, he'd support me financially with the boxing. So I was working very hard at university. At college, I did well there. And I went on to Edge Hill University over in Ormskirk and studied sports studies and physical activity. And I graduated from there with a 2-1 degree in sports studies and physical activity. Also won them a national title. I got a straight bye to the final and I stopped the lad in the first round. And got a scholarship with Edge Hill University, which I was very happy with. And then at the age of 22, as I'd graduated from university, I was asked to turn professional in boxing. I turned professional in 2015, and I was denied of a professional boxing license because of being type 1 diabetic. And again, discrimination. You guys might have seen me on BBC and Sky News, Sky Sports, my story, that I was fighting for my license. I got the lawyers involved, solicitors, and they said that this is discrimination. If you're fit and healthy, you should be granted a professional boxing license. And then eventually 3 years on, I created history by becoming the first diabetic professional boxer. And now I've had 6 professional fights and 6 wins. I've signed a management deal with MTK, who managed Tyson Fury. And I'm hoping to become the first diabetic world champion now. I keep healthy. I'm an ambassador for Freestyle Libre, ambassador for Diabetes UK. I'm always keeping an eye on my sugar levels, eating healthy. Don't get me wrong, guys, I do have my odd cheat meal. I've got a sweet tooth. I love my chocolate bars and chocolate cakes, but I try keeping a fine balance, and I weigh my portions of my food, so I know exactly how many carbs I'm consuming. So I'm on the Nova Rapid Mix. Because of my boxing, I can't wear an insulin pump because it goes on your abs, apparently. For example, I wear my Freestyle Libre on the side of my glute. I can't wear it on my arm because when I'm in training, it get punched off. And the insulin pump, it goes on your abdominals, and I can't wear it. So I take the Nova Rapid Mix, and the Livamir is my slow acting insulin. So recently, guys, I did the Daphne course just to refresh my memories. And because I've done the Daphne course, honestly, it's made my sugar levels in better control overall. Do you know, listen, like, for example, speaking to you guys, listening to Frank's story, Dr. Anna's, you learn things from one another, and it's very good, you know, getting to speak to one another in open chats as this, because we get to share our experiences living with type 1 diabetes. So I think this is an excellent thing what Lindsay and Shirley have done to organise this event. Well done to you guys. And if you've got any question, guys, fire them away. I'm happy to answer them.
Ali, can I just say that being an ambassador is such a good thing, because you have taken the mantle of all those of us who have been through similar situations. I was diagnosed in 75, 76 as type 1. And then if you wanted to hire a car, you couldn't, because they wouldn't insure you. You couldn't get car insurance, right? So if you went to hire a car from a hire company, their insurers would go, oh no, you can't have a car. I go, well, I've got a license.
Yeah.
So the government think I'm okay to drive. And they say, no, I'm sorry, our insurers won't cover you. You know, and that sort of discrimination has been going on for years. So, you know, actually taking it on board like you did and saying there should be no reason why I should be penalised just because of a health condition that I've got. If it was serious, then obviously, you know, I could understand that, but I'm as fit and healthy as everyone else. And I think that's a great thing that you've done there, just to push that forward for other sports people who will want to do the same thing. You know, it's that discrimination has been there for many, many years.
Yeah. Mike, I agree with you. Like, we've had discrimination again. For example, we've had a serious pandemic with COVID-19. You know, it's affected millions of people around the world, and I'm very sorry, you know, to the people who've lost their lives and to the family members. But I'm not proud, but I've not suffered from COVID from the start, and touch wood, I still don't want to suffer from it. I'm keeping well clear of people, and not meaning like I'm not shaking hands with people, keeping my distance, keeping a mask on, even in public, even till today. For example, in the gym, keeping my distance away from my training partners, because it is a serious problem. But the government put me on the red list. That's why I've not boxed for the last 18 months. Now I've been given the authorization to box, given the green light, but I've had 18 months wasted for no reason. People who are non-diabetic, they're at a high risk as well of COVID. So why have I, as a diabetic, been put on the red list? I can't understand discrimination for us diabetics. I don't think it'll ever stop.
Most of us would have looked at that and said, well, actually, you know, I need to do things myself, like stay the distance from people, put a mask on, don't shake hands. We would have done that ourselves, because the thing about diabetes, and certainly type 1, is the fact that it's the only condition that I can think of where you choose how you actually treat it, how much insulin you have, how you feel in the morning you get up, you think, oh, what a day, you know. And you're actually pushing forward and doing hard physical activity, right? Because you feel that you can do it. They shouldn't stand in your way. You know, if you had a problem with your brain conditions and things like that, then obviously I'll be saying, no, don't do that. But having diabetes and doing that, you know, you're perfectly capable of doing it. And they shouldn't be discriminating. And it's not just in sport, is it? I mean, I'm sure, I don't know how many other type 1s there are on here, but even type 2, you know, the type 2s now, there are so many, and they don't know really some of the issues, but they are coping where they can, the best they can. You know, this condition, type 1, type 2, doesn't matter which one, you know, extracts so much money out the NHS. Yeah, you know, it's over 11% of the NHS budget is spent on diabetes care. You know, it's a horrible condition, but you know, with people like Frank making those changes, yeah, you know, and actually, I couldn't get on a bicycle. Well, I can't because of you know, the conditions that I've got, but you know, he's actually taken it on board and gone with it, and you can see the difference, can't you? It's a condition that you've got to control.
I absolutely agree with you, Mike. Do you know what you've just said then is I 100% agree with you. I feel as though I've got a strength living with type 1 diabetes because the other lads around me, for example, if they've had like a McDonald's to eat the night before training, they feel lethargic in training. If I consume a McDonald's, my sugar levels are out of control. And I know to eat the correct nutrition for the correct results in the gym. So I feel so I'm at an advantage than the other lads because they're not getting to check their blood sugar levels when they're consuming bad foods. Whereas if I consume them bad foods, I know I can't go near that food again because my body reacts to it differently. And I see the difference in the gym because I'm always eating fresh cooked meals at home, what I cook myself, and weigh the portion sizes. I feel 100% every session. Whereas when I speak to my teammates, like, how come you so tired today? And they'll be like, oh, I went out for a meal last night and don't feel good today. And I'd be thinking, oh, if I went for that meal, I would have checked my sugar levels and they would have told, my sugar levels would have told me automatically, look, you're out of control and you shouldn't eat that again. So I feel as though I am at a strength in a way, but the discrimination side, that doesn't help whatsoever.
No. I think the big difference between at the moment is the fact that, of course, we've got type 2 and we've got type 1. Yeah. And type 2 obviously don't check their sugar levels. They're not given the capability of checking their sugar levels. So they don't see how we can adapt what we eat and what we see, whereas it's much harder for them. People don't realize that these two differing types of diabetes, in my view, they're basically different conditions. I think so, because I don't know anything about type 2. You know, I'm the chairman of the local support group, but I don't do anything with type 2 because I don't get it. But I'm type 1 and they don't get what I do. So, you know, I think the fact that you've taken this course is really commendable, and you're going out there and just proving that you can do it. You know, Steve Redgrave was the same, wasn't he?
Yeah, we've got the doctor, Dr. Ian Gallen, who won my case for me. He was the consultant for Sir Steve Redgrave, and he's the one who said, look, Sir Steve Redgrave is out in the open sea rowing with paramedics who are up in the air in a helicopter if anything goes wrong. Like, for example, if he suffers from a hypoglycemia or anything, his sugar levels go out of control, the helicopter's in the air, whereas when you're in a boxing ring, the paramedics 5 meters away from you, ringside, they'll just jump in the ring, whereas the paramedics have got to come down on an helicopter. And he was like, there's no reason why you shouldn't be getting your boxing license. If your HB1C is fine, if you're healthy, you pass all your medicals, you should be granted your license. And that's exactly what happened.
Well, I hope that you go on to encourage all the young ones, you know, who want to have a career in sport.
Absolutely, you know?
Yeah. And they can use you then and say, well, look, he can do it. Well, how come if he can do it, I can do it? But you've got to dedicate it, haven't you? You've got to be serious about it.
Got to live the life. Look, for example, Mike, like you said, diabetes, I believe it's not an illness. I believe it's a condition and a controllable condition. Like you said, we've got a condition where we can control it to do whatever we want in life. For example, I want to take part in sports or become a driving instructor or a pilot. If my sugar levels are in control, nobody can stop us from doing anything except the rules and regulations.
Yeah. I've got a very interesting question for you, Ali, and a lot of people who do exercise want to know what you do to ensure that you're okay when you're exercising. How do you adjust your insulin accordingly?
So what I do is, Shirley, for example, it's a long-term thing. So prior to getting my boxing license, I started monitoring my diet. For example, I did have my low blood sugar levels, but then I'd increased my carbohydrates. So I look at a diet plan and then stick by it. So, for example, when I've got to lose a bit of weight, I know how to adjust my carbohydrates. And I tell you, people who are struggling with, adjusting their carbohydrates, get doing the Daphne course. Honestly, it is so helpful. It's on, like, for example, I did it about 6 months ago to refresh my memories about how to take my insulin. For example, when I was injecting myself, like the past 12 months, I'd inject myself and, within 2 seconds, pull the injection back out. And I got taught on the Daphne course, leave the injection in your at least 5 seconds. So all the insulin is absorbed. Take it 15 minutes prior to a meal. Whereas I'd be taking my insulin 2-3 minutes prior to my meal, and they were saying that 15 minutes prior, it lets the insulin get into the bloodstream, and you have a better absorption of your meal, your carbs within your blood, and it's just a memory refreshment for everybody, and I highly recommend doing the
Yeah, I think because I'm a type 2, so we don't do Daphne. We do Desmond, and they're starting those face-to-face ones again, whereas before it was an app. I mean, I do, fair enough, I do use the app because I can put my sugar levels in, because I do test mine, and I put my steps in. So it will let me do that, and it keeps me sort of, I can put my blood pressure in, I can do whatever I want with it, but it does keep you on track.
I forgot to say, Shirley, that is such a good idea that you've got a Fitbit. It's because you're keeping a track of your steps you're taking. That's a fantastic idea, for everybody. At least they'll know. Like, for example, if I'm to do steps and I know my range of blood sugars, I know I've got to do X amount of steps for my sugar levels to stay in such a control. So it's a great idea of how to track your sugar levels with exercise.
And it also, you can buy cheap ones. You don't have to buy an expensive one, but it does sort of look at your heart rate as well, and also it does prompt you to stand up. So it'll say move, a little man will wave at you for you to move, or even breathe. It'll tell you it's time to breathe, because breathing is an exercise, and you don't realise just how much breathing can help you.
I did that yoga.
Yeah.
I did yoga today. Taught me how to breathe.
Did you? Well, there you'll be in with breathing then.
How to lift the rib cage.
Listen to the inner breath.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's very much like Qigong. I've just done 2 courses recently, and one of them I thought it was standing, so I actually got there and it was sitting like yoga, and I thought, I am never ever going to do this, and I stuck to it and I passed, and I actually enjoy it because it's got a lot of meditation in as well, so that helps. So we're just trying something new. So yeah, listen to your inner breath.
Shirley, like you use a Fitbit. I bought one off eBay. It cost me, I think it was £18 off eBay. I bought a heart rate strap, and the app, you download it on your mobile, and I wear that during the beginning, and it tells me what heart rate I've trained at, my lowest and my highest. It tells me my calories I've burnt. So that's a great, well, to recognize, you can see how hard you've trained, how high you're on, how low it is, and how many calories you burn, and where my sugar levels are at. And I use a lot of, like, science has changed the world, and I use a lot of my numbers together.
Do you use I'm trying to think what it is now, it's on my app, where it counts your calories on your food? It's an app.
Is it?
It's an app, and you just
MyFitnessPal?
No, I've got what it is now. It's I'll tell you what it is, because I've got it on my. We had a meeting about food and food technology, and about the Libra, and it was snack. That's what it's called, snacks, for type 1. And if you see you out having a meal, if you take a photograph of it, it tells you what calories are and what the fats are.
Amazing.
So that might be all right for you when you say you're looking at what the carbs are in it as well. There's quite a few things out there that you can use that are excellent to help you. So yeah, I use Pacer. There's others.
That's really useful to know. I think Pacer's really good, but I'm wondering, some people submitted questions when they booked their tickets. So I'm wondering whether we could just ask some of those.
You want to put it on the screen?
I've sent them to Ali. Hang on, I've got them here. You're doing great, by the way, Ali.
Yeah.
How do you pick yourself up when diabetes throws you challenges?
How do I keep myself up?
How do you pick yourself up?
Yeah, say if you've had like you said, perhaps they've had a beef burger one night, you get up the next day thinking, oh, I shouldn't have had that.
For example, I've got to go to the gym, because if I know if I don't go to the gym and train with my teammates, I'll fall behind, and the coach will give them the attention over me. So I've got no excuses. It's a full-time commitment. I fought 3 years for my license, and I've created history, and I want to create history again for the second time by becoming the first diabetic world champion. So if I don't attend training sessions, and I'll fall behind and I'll fall short of my goals. So I'm so motivated and dedicated. I won't let food beat me.
That's a really good saying. That's it.
Food beat me.
One I can think about is, what exercise did you do during lockdown?
Oh, I did a lot of running, on the road. I was doing a lot of running. I was doing my ab work at home. I started following at home, doing yoga off my iPad, watching people do yoga. Yoga is so hard. I got embarrassed today by my yoga instructor. I've got a private yoga instructor, and we've started our first session today, and it was so hard. I want to become flexible, and it's brutal. Yoga, it looks easy, but it's not.
No. No, I did it once. No, I did. No, I did it for quite some time, but I didn't really, enjoy it. But yeah.
How did you get on, Shirley?
I was all right. I was a bit, as I say, I think I've got this competitive streak where I don't realise that I shouldn't be doing things as low as perhaps, first time round. But, sort of, I've learnt to work within my comfort zone now. So it's the same as I do Tai Chi and Qigong. The exercises you do for that are sometimes can be very strenuous. And there's one that's called 13 exercises till suppleness. And, yeah. So yeah, trying to touch your toes. Yeah, I can get there. Yeah, I can touch the floor. It's just getting back up that's a problem.
Yeah. You do the hard part, easy parts you leave out.
Well, now I'm going on their summer camp next week, so I'm going down to Telford. So I'll be spending 2 days doing Tai Chi and taking my fan, but I'm not taking my sword, Lindsay, not this time. So I think one of the other questions, I think if I looked, was from Shukra, is it? I think she asked, how do we exercise to lower blood sugars? Because she gets highs after walk and it's very discouraging.
After walk?
After walking, she gets discouraged. It's how do you lower your sugar levels? So I'll ask you that, Ali.
For example, when I go on a long road run, slow and steady run for like 6 miles, my sugar levels tend to drop. But I'm not really sure, to be honest with you, Shukra. What you can do is speak to your dietitian, but what I'd personally do is I'd take prior to walking, I'd take a correction dose. A correction dose, or increase, to the snack I'm consuming before walking. Take a extra few units of my fast Nova Rapid mix. That's what I'd do personally. You're better off speaking to your dietitian or your consultant. But that's what I'd do. I'd go for my walk and then monitor my sugar levels again. And then I'd do it 2-3 times, and then I'd get to know how much, I'd get to know of where my sugar levels are at. Do I need to take a correction dose? Do I not? What am I consuming? I'd question the food I'm eating prior to walking as well. So I take a lot of things into consideration. My correction is the first one. Second one would be, what food am I consuming prior to walking? Am I eating a snack before going? So I'd look at a few things, write them down, and then make a few adjustments over the next 2-3 walks I do. Because you should be walking. That's an excellent exercise for us type 1 diabetics, or not even diabetics, non-diabetics as well. So just have a look at what you're eating prior to walking. Do you need to take a correction dose? Just have a look, weigh a few options up.
Yeah, well, thank you for that, Ali. Have you got any more, Lindsay, on your list?
Well, I think Ali's answered some of them, but one I wanted to ask him was, Ali, do you have that thing where your blood sugar goes up when you do what they call anaerobic exercise, like weightlifting?
At the start of training camp, like for example, I'm going to have an announcement of my next fight date next week. And at the start, when I start the intense training, my sugar levels will rise. And then I'll like for example, I was saying about Shukra, to have a look at what foods she's consuming prior to training, how much insulin she's, if she needs to take a correction dose, I'll be doing the same thing. So over 2-3 sessions, if my sugar levels are going up, I'll take more insulin prior to training. That's what I'll do. So I'll have a look at what my sugar levels are, and do I need to take a correction dose? Do I not? I'll just weigh the options up once I get stuck into training.
And do you have your own nutritionist, or do you do that yourself?
I have my own nutritionist.
Yeah.
I
You're
enjoy
an
it.
expert. You'll be able to do,
Yeah,
when you decide to retire from boxing, you'll be able to become a nutritionist, a yoga teacher.
I'll try.
Well, that's what he did, Leon. The diver. He's now a yoga teacher.
Amazing, brilliant.
Yeah. He's been doing it for quite some time. So apparently, I think he was teaching the GB team out in Rio. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So, any other questions? Any on the chat? Oh yes, Shukra says thanks, Ali, for the answer.
You're most welcome.
Yeah. So you're announcing your next match next week. I shall have to look on that. Will that go out online, or
I spoke to my management team yesterday, and they said next week I should get a date. So probably looking at October, November time.
Will that be in Manchester or somewhere else?
Bolton.
Bolton. All right.
Bolton football ground.
Yeah. Okay then.
That's where my last dance was.
Liz.
Yeah, I've got a question, Ali. When you said that if you have a McDonald's, your sugars go wild.
Yeah.
But to me, that's not high carb. Yeah, sure, there's some carb, a bun, but it's not massive. And I just wondered, do you actually do low carb? Do you eat low carb food?
To be honest with you, I eat high carbs because I'm in a physical support. I've got to consume a lot of carbs, so I eat high carbs. But McDonald's, it's processed food. We don't know how long the burgers are frozen for. We might be getting them after 3 months. So, it's processed food. And
but that doesn't affect your blood sugar. It's only the carbs that affect your blood sugar. So I'm a bit confused by that.
I'm not sure. Whenever I eat frozen foods, my sugar levels go out of control. Must be something within the way they probably cook the food, or I couldn't tell you.
It's probably in the bun. It's probably in the bread that they put it in.
Yeah, it's in the bun, but that's not a huge amount of carbs in a McDonald's bun. I've not had one for years, but I don't like them. It's not massive.
Yeah,
I suppose it depends what else you've got on it. If you've got bacon, cheese.
Yeah, but that doesn't touch your carbs. That just slows down the digestion. It means your blood sugar goes up more slowly because there's lots of fat and protein in it.
What I think it is, I think it's because it's processed food. I think it's nothing to do with the carbs when it comes to, like, for example, when I eat doner meat, my sugar levels go worse than the McDonald's food.
I think it's the actual type of food it is, because it's quite unhealthy. I think it causes your blood sugars to spike, and then it all comes down later on. So then maybe you're trying to get more insulin on board as well if you're corrected, and then that can cause hypos further down. I'm the same. If I have a McDonald's, it's not so much that it sends them wild, but it will cause them to go high very quickly. So it might be a case of having your insulin like half an hour before eating a McDonald's, because then the insulin's on board, it's in your bloodstream, like Ali said earlier on. But certainly for me, it will spike quite high straight away. It's the same with like pizza and a takeaway as well. I don't know how it works. I don't know if it's how it's cooked, or whether it's because it's unhealthy fats or whatever, but I have the same problem as well.
It's really interesting, because I'm the opposite. If I have something with a lot of fat and meat, protein in it, then my rise comes like 3 hours later.
Really?
It lasts much longer, so I need an extended bolus or repeated mini boluses to deal with it, later on in the evening or whenever it is.
Yeah, I guess
really
everyone's so different, isn't it?
Yeah. So we have to suck it and see.
Yeah.
You sure you're not having a milkshake with it, Ali?
No milk.
I just don't have a McDonald's. You know. I don't even know how to order. Well, in fact, we did. I went with my granddaughter and grandson, and she had to order it for me because it's all computerized now. So she knows how to press the buttons. So I don't. But yes.
To be honest with you, I do enjoy a good ice cream from McDonald's.
There, a McFlurry.
Yeah, cool. One especially.
Oh. Oh well, I suppose you can have it from time to time, Ali. And,
Time to time.
Yeah. If I had one of those, I'd have to have one every day. So I just don't. Oh God. It's like a packet of biscuits or chocolate. Multi-packs I just can't buy. I just have to have single ones because a multi-pack means that I can multi-eat. Yeah. No good saying this. They put them away, you can't see them. I know they're there. I just have to think when I'm that way out, I just have to think, look, just eat it, Shirley, and then just get over it and don't do it again. So there's any other questions for Ali?
Can I ask Ali, sorry, Mohammed, I tend to have the same breakfast every morning, so 60 grams of carbs usually, and then I'll have 3 units of insulin, Nova Rapid. But I'll try and get out and try and either do a walk or a cycle, say an hour and a half. If I don't manage to get out before the hour, I'm going quite high. But then obviously I'll do the hour's exercise, cycle ride or whatever, and I'll come down. I'll come back in range over that time period. But if I don't put the insulin in, obviously I go higher faster.
Yeah.
If I try and control it better and staying within range, if I'm doing the same exercise for an hour, and then by the end of the hour, I'm generally going into hypo situation. So it's just trying to manage that breakfast or all that intake of carbs with your insulin, and then doing the exercise over a period of time without either stuffing yourself full of carbs halfway through your exercise period, or trying to reduce your insulin too much so you go too high in the first place. How do you manage that sort of scenario?
So what I do is, David, so I don't have to stuff myself too much. For example, I'm always checking my sugar levels during training, and I have a similar breakfast to yourself, 60 grams of granola or porridge, a little bit of, a few blueberries, about 30 grams.
Yeah,
50.
Please do.
Yeah, so sometimes, depending on what session I'm doing, I have a drop in my insulin or I have a bit of a rise. So I'll take a dose, or if it's dropping, what I've been told by my dietitian is, because I said to him, look, I'm consuming Mars bars and it stuffs me. Do you know, like you said, stuffing yourself with carbs, you can't train, you can't exercise. So I said to him, I can't keep eating Mars bars in the middle of a training session. The lads will be looking at me like, is this guy in a boxing gym eating a chocolate bar? How can he even be a boxer? So what I do is I have glucose powder, what I put into my water. So everybody drinks water during the training session, but I'll end up putting a scoop of glucose powder, or I'll have a couple of jelly babies, and that'll bring my sugar into range again.
Yeah. That's first go to jelly babies, but I got a bit fed up with them after a bit. Just stuff them in stuff.
Yeah. Yes. You should, keep a few jelly babies, or you can have the glucose powder. Yeah. You can either have glucose tablet, or you can get the powder. I get mine off myprotein.com, and it's a 50-gram scoop, and I just put that into my water, mix it, and it just turns your water sweet, and I drink of the session, and after, sometimes it makes my sugar rise above 10, or sometimes it just stays within good range.
Yeah. Do you ever try to sort of calculate your carb intake for a given sort of training situation?
Yeah, it can do. Like it's trial and error sometimes.
Yeah.
If I've had I'm the exact same as you, David. It's very boring. I have a granola or a porridge every single morning with blueberries or blackberries or strawberries, and off I go to training. But from time to time, I have a bagel for breakfast or egg and bread. Your sugar levels, you know, because you're having a different carb, the carbohydrates may be the same, but you
release, it's the release rate, isn't it?
Yeah, it releases differently. Like you can't go in quicker or slower, and sometimes I've got to take less units, or in training I'll have to end up having glucose powder or a few jelly babies. Right. That's what I'll have to do. So I'll have to, you know, calculate around trial and error, you know,
yeah.
see what I do. That's why I stick by the old breakfast.
Yeah, that's what I do. I've started sort of monitoring how much carbs I've been eating over a period, and sort of taking my blood readings. So I've come up with like a very rough estimate of 15 grams of carbs for half an hour of activity.
Yeah.
Just doing daft calculations like that, and hopefully over a period of time I'll get that average up and down a bit. Yeah, but appreciate that. Thank you.
No, good luck, David. It's just trial and error. You can only, nobody can tell you how many units you've got to take. For example, your intake with my intake, so it's different for everybody. So I can do another thing may work for you, and it might not work for you. So it's about trial and error for yourself, really.
Yeah, understand. Thank you.
No, you're more, David.
So have we got any more questions? Oh, Brenda, come on, Brenda.
You were saying that. Hello. You were saying earlier on that at school you weren't allowed a milk. And you had Mars bars instead. Why didn't they let you have milk? Because I would have thought that 2 Mars bars is far more carbs than 1 milk.
Yeah, instead of milk, my dietitian, my nurse told me to, and my dietitian told me to drink a can of Diet Coke. Do you remember the mini cans of Diet Coke when Woolworths used to be open? My mum were told to get a load of them for me and give them into the school. So they'd give me a small can of Diet Coke, which has, I think, 0 grams of carbohydrates and 2 Mars bars.
But why did you have to have so many Mars bars? Why couldn't you have less Mars bars and milk instead? Which would you would have been doing what the other children did then. It's just you'd have had an extra Mars bar.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, Brenda. I always wanted...
young, Brenda.
And
you was only young. I can always remember
I was wondering whether the thinking at the time was that milk wasn't good for you or something like that.
I felt left out. Yeah, I wish I could have drank the milk. I felt left out.
yeah, that's what. Yeah, and I don't know whether. I mean, it's like you heard people say, "Oh, you can't have sweets, you can't have this, you can't have that," and the science of it is completely different. But I'm wondering whether there was something. Whether somebody got a bee in their bonnet that said if you got diabetes, you shouldn't have milk.
Yeah.
You know, then they take the milk away from you and you give you 2 Mars bars, which is why
you were lucky.
I think at the time is lack of education and you know, technology. It was over 20 years ago, so I wish I could go back in time and tell them I want milk.
But I think the other point you made is very important. It's probably not what it did to your diet, but what it did to you socially, because you were different from the other children.
Yeah, I felt left out. I felt very and discriminated, to be honest with you. Why can't
milk?
Yeah.
Allow milk.
You're having a Diet Coke can.
And having 2 Mars bars.
Yeah. I bet you were. I bet they were jealous at school if you're having 2 Mars bars.
They were jealous of you. Yeah.
I can always remember my great niece and my great nephew. They had type 1 diabetes really early. So when they started school, they'd have an alarm clock, and it used to go off when they needed a snack. And of course, the kids always used to say, "Well, why is he eating?" You know, and if the parents were there as well, the parents will be going, "He's eating," you know, and so that can be quite, you know, you're out in front then, aren't you? You sort of everybody's looking at you, so you know, and they didn't want anybody to know that they were diabetic. I mean, even now, I mean, there's 27 and 30, they still are a bit shy about the diabetes.
So I suppose at school it's as bad to be advantaged as it is to be disadvantaged.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well then, I think we've had a really good night. Thank you, Ali. It's been very interesting again, and you've given us food for thought there. Yes, you must let us know when your boxing match is, and we might get a group up and come and see you.
Follow me, keep up to date, guys. You guys are my diabetes family, and if you ever need advice or anytime you want me to get involved in it, you've just got to give me a message, and I'm openly, willing to take part.
Oh, that's fine. Yes, thank you very much, Ali, for that.
So,
yeah, thank you everybody for staying and listening to Ali. See you again and take care.
Take
Keep
care,
up with that yoga.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care, guys. Bye. Bye.
So we will see you again.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime, just give me a message.
Okay,
Take care,
then.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
So that's been a very interesting topic. Did everybody gain anything from that?
Definitely.
Yeah. Do we all feel motivated to get out there tomorrow and give it a go?
Absolutely.
Wow.
It'll be all right till I get up in the morning. Yeah, I'll be fidgeting in bed. That'll be about it.
Who's up for a feat then?
Yeah. Well, shan't be running. I'll not be having the granola, but I might have the porridge. But yes, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Been very good.
Well done. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Bye, everyone.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, were you on the treadmill, Lindsay?
Yep.
I thought you were. What was that for? Was he sort of like, I'm going to show him I'm fit?
No, actually.
Does it give you a, while you're watching the screen? When I used to bike ride, I used to have my iPod and I'd watch Tai Chi or listen to music.
Yeah.
Get rid of the boredom.
I'm trying to do the steps for Diabetes UK by the end of September. So I've got to.
But you have how many have you got to do?
I'm doing 5,000 a day in theory. Because you don't have to do 10,000 a day to do it, which I thought you did, but you don't. So yeah, and I think we should all do it next year.
Yeah, I think one of my neighbours, she's doing it. Is it a 1,000,000 step challenge? I can't remember what that's what she was doing. Yeah.
Bye, Jenny.
No, if you do 10,000 a day, that's 70,000 a week. You get, it's.
Yeah, it's 1 million by the end of September, but I'm doing 500,000.
Well, keep going, but don't stay up too long.
I'm not going to go to bed and then get my clothes on and go out again.
Why not? You haven't done enough. Get your pajamas on and your clothes on and do out a few more. I used to do it in the snow. Dad used to look at me as though to say, she's gone mad. Yeah. What are you doing? If anybody saw me, I used to be going round in a loop. And if I was right, I'm going to do a few more harmonies, that I'll be off again. I don't do it now. I don't go out at all in the evening.
Is everyone okay if I end the meeting now?
Yes, fine. Yeah. You can stop recording now. Yeah.
Bye,
I enjoyed
everyone.
the session.
Bye.